Hi, I'm Karlus Trapp. So glad you could join me for this wonderful journey exploring the roots of black music in America. Now, the musical history of America is rich. As rich as the son of a Rockefeller and as deep as the oceans that bound our shores. But it would be hard-pressed to find a people whose music has touched so many, but has been created in the midst of and despite so many years of pain, prejudice, violence, and laws meant to keep those people down. Peoples whose very existence began in this country in chains in Virginia in the 1600s. So we are going to start our journey, our magical musical journey, with the Negro spirituals, the songs of the African slaves. And this is a 100-year journey, so we're going to start around the 1850s. Down south. Somewhere, low Mason-Dixon line. I think I can hear some slaves singing. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children. Wade in the water, God's got trouble. The water saying, wade in the water, wade in the water, children. Wade in the water, God's got trouble. The water. I didn't always know what this song was about. This is not a song about an afternoon swim to escape the blazing southern heat. This is a song about life and death. Slaves singing this song are running away from their wretched lives, hoping to hook up with that underground railroad to take them to freedom. And they're being chased by the hounds of the slave master. When they see a body of water, they jump into that body of water. So when they're in there, those hounds can't get the human scent, and they pass on by. That's why they're wading in the water, wading in the water, children, wading in the water. God's on trouble, the water. God's on trouble, the water. God's on trouble, the water. Now when those slaves felt that it was safe enough to come out of the water, if they were lucky, some of them hoped to hook up with the Underground Railroad, as I said, to take them up north to freedom. They call that Underground Railroad, they call them chariots. So you know this, sing along. Swing low, a sweet chariot, I'm coming for to carry me home. Swing low, a sweet chariot, I'm coming for to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, what did I see? I'm coming for to carry me home. I seen a band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, a sweet chariot, I'm coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, I'm coming for to carry me home. Swing low, a sweet chariot, I'm coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Now when those slaves place where they can be free and form communities of their own. Those communities were generally centered around the churches. And the music of the churches, you know, had a different bounce to it. They're free now. So they call them praise churches. You can hear the minister say, praise the Lord. Everybody say, amen. Oh, this is one of the songs. This is our first song that's a call and response. You know this one. Oh, and those saints marching in. And those saints go marching in. Wow, I wanna be in that number. When those saints go marching in. Now in the sun refuse to shine. When that sun refuse to shine. But I wanna be in that number. When that sun refuse to shine. When those saints go marching. Oh, when those saints go marching. Oh, how I wanna be in that number. When those saints go marching. 2 by 2, 3 by 3, 4 by 4. Saints go marching. All right. Songs of the Negro spirituals, songs of the African slaves, and first song from the praise churches of the free blacks. So that song, Saints Go Marching In, is liberally associated with the city of New Orleans, which is and was a cultural melting pot, kind of a gumbo stew of peoples. You have French settlers, American Indians, free blacks, black slaves, blacks from the West Indies. And in 1901, America's first pop music star, really a jazz musician, was born in New Orleans. A young lad whose name was Louis Satchmo, nicknamed Armstrong. And Louis helped to change the sound of America's music. How did he change it? Well, we don't know if it could have been all of these things. His big smile and personality, his raspy voice, his scat singing, or his trumpet playing. But we're going to show you what America's music sounded like before Louis Armstrong and how he helped to metamorphosize, is that a word? That music. So, a little American tune called Jeepers Creepers. Before Louis. Jeepers creepers, how'd you get those creepers? Jeepers creepers, how'd you get those eyes? Gosh, oh, giggle, how'd you get so little? Gosh, oh, giggle, how'd you get that size? And then Louis Armstrong came along, and our music started to swing. And people took notice and rivers, creepers, so out together now, rivers. Rivers now, out together their minds. Oh, God, oh, yeah, go. Tell me, baby, how to get so little. Gosh, so you don't know how to live that size. Thank you, Mr. Louis Armstrong, the ambassador of jazz. I'm going to switch over to the piano for this next tune. Just before Louis Armstrong was born, in 1900, there was music, lively, barreling piano music being played for people, entertaining people in saloons, dance halls, and other places of ill repute. Where might you ask were those places? Why, out west, towards and around Missouri, home of Scott Joplin, the king of ragtime. Scott Joplin was a classically trained African-American piano player, listening to Chopin, Beethoven, Bach, but creating his own style, his own fresh style of music based in classical, but American music for Americans, by an American black man. Scott Joplin, and this song, The Entertainer, his signature tune, you can hear it, at least around here in the East. When the ice cream truck comes around every summer day, they are playing this song, The Entertainer. And here it is for you, from me. Scott Joplin's The Entertainer. All right, we're gonna hop a train and go 20 years into the future, leaving Scott Joplin behind, heading to the roaring 20s. And we're gonna head east to New York City. Roaring 20s in New York City. Lively, crowded, dirty New York City. But you're glad you're here. You're walking down the street in Midtown. All of a sudden you hear this music. You don't know where it's coming from, but it sure feels good. And you get closer to this building and you realize that speakeasy over there. Seems like the windows are pumping. You gotta hear, what is this? So you open the door and you walk down the stairs. You get to the bottom, you knock on the door, and they open up this little window. And you peek through, and the place is jumping. People are losing their minds. And all this music is being created by one black teenage boy sitting at the piano. boy, this incredible musical genius. His name is James P. Johnson, 17-year-old from New Brunswick, New Jersey, gigging on a Saturday night in New York City. And the people on the dance floor losing their socks. Longshoreman from Charleston, South Carolina. And he has named his songs after their town. He just started making up music to the dances they were doing all in Charleston. And the world went crazy. Bam, 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 the Roaring '20s gets us to right around, well, after the '20s came the '30s. There's all kinds of music happening in America. If you head down south, you can hear music done by Delta bluesmen. People like Robert Johnson. Eric Clapton said when he heard Robert Johnson for the first time, it changed his life. You better come in my kitchen, because it's gonna be raining outside. But if you went to the cities in the 1930s, the sound of swing is really what's happening there with the big bands. And those big bands, like Count Basie or Duke Ellington or Tommy Dorsey. In fact, let's do a little Duke Ellington song here that you might hear in the 1930s. The Duke Ellington Orchestra. We're going to take the A train. Bow, bum, 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 ba-dum. Bow, ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-dum. Bow, bum, 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 ba-dum. Bow, ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-dum. Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Tommy Dorsey Orchestra. These bands, the swing era from the 1930s through the 1940s, tended to have female singers like Ella Fitzgerald or Billie Holiday. So we're going to do, those singers tended to want to do songs, not like the Delta Bluesmen. They were doing blues songs, but they liked the songs that were written by Tin Pan Alley songwriters like George Gershwin or Harold Arlen. Songs like this one, Blues in the Night. big-eyed girl in a sweet talk done. Man is a two-faced, worrisome thing, leave you to sing blues in the night. A man is a two-faced, worrisome thing, leave you to sing blues in the night. That song was written by Tin Pan Alley songwriter Harold Arlen, who probably got his biggest name from writing the music to The Wizard of Oz. Now, in 1943, there was a movie in America that had an all-black cast. All the actors, singers, dancers, musicians were black and brown. And in that movie, the name of that movie was Stormy Weather. And Harold Arlen wrote the music to Stormy Weather. But in that movie, there was a dapper, flamboyant band leader, big orchestra, who took the call and response style of singing that you heard in the churches, came from the slaves, made his own iconic song from it. From Cab Calloway, oh, there's a story about Minnie the Moocher. She was a red hot hoochie coocher. She was the roughest, toughest brave, and Minnie had a heart as big as over. Say honey, 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 honey. Around the bloke named Smokey. She loved him though he was Cooke. He took her down to Chinatown, showed her how to kick the gong around. Say honey, 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 honey. Minnie the Moocher from Cab Calloway, star of the movie, one of the stars of the movie, Stormy Weather. Now, big bands were really swinging it from the 30s to the 40s. But somewhere in between the 40s and the 50s, there was another style of music that came about after the big bands, after the war was over, and the big bands got too big to be traveling. The bands started to shrink down a little bit. And there was a style of music that they called jump blues. And one of the biggest stars of jump blues was a man named Louis Jordan. And he wound up influencing. Louis Jordan was, just like most of these stars, an influence to many, many people. Songs tended to have comedic takes on black urban living, like this one. song, some jump blues from Louis Jordan, doing that bridge between the swing of the 40s and the rock and roll of the 50s. And I'm going to switch over to the electric guitar for this next one. All right, so the jump blues of the 40s got us to the rock and roll. It was that bridge to the rock and roll of the 50s. In 1926, in St. Louis, Missouri, a little boy was born, picked up the guitar. I don't know if he knew that he would grow up to be called the father of rock and roll. But Charles Berry, with his showmanship, his songwriting, and his guitar prowess, influenced everybody from the Beatles and the Rolling Stones to Bob Dylan and Jimi Hendrix, and yours truly as well. So I'm going to do his signature song here, which is really autobiographical of Mr. Berry, but it's called Johnny Be Good. In the 1950s, there was a piano player, band leader, had an orchestra. He was a composer, an arranger, and his band, his music covered all genres. Rhythm and blues, rock and roll, gospel influenced. In the 60s, even had a country hit. He was born in the South, lost his sight at 9 years old to glaucoma, but went on to become a household name in America. And many people who respected him called him the genius. He just preferred to be called Brother Ray. A song from Ray Charles. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. The road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. I hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Oh, baby, listen, baby, don't you treat me I hope you're enjoying this journey as much as I am. We are in the late 50s here, heading into the 60s. So we have come 100 years in our journey, roots of black music in America. This next artist, beloved artist, was born in New York City and was moved to Jamaica with his family at about 9 years old. And the music of the islands became the distinctive influence that set his music apart from everyone else, especially the sound of calypso. Harry Belafonte, I guess, was a folk artist, but his music was more than just folk. And that love of that joie de vivre you can hear in his music, even though the songs might be about, like this one, back-breaking, hard days work when all you want to do is get home. But the song, like I said, is full of joy and life. And it's a fun tune to sing. So if you can, wherever you are, no, be like come and me one go. It's a day, it's a day, it's a day, it's a day, it's a day. You might want to get something to shake or a little bottle to hit a spoon with or something, cause this one feels like daylight come and me one go home. I work all night on a ring old bum. Daylight come and me one go home. I'll pick one night till the morning come. Daylight come and me one go home. Comes to tally man, tally me banana. Daylight come and me one go home. Comes to tally man, tally me banana. Daylight come and me one go home. 6 foot 7 foot 8 foot punch. Daylight come and me one go home. 6 foot 7 foot 8 foot punch. Daylight come and me one go home. Daylight come, me one go home. It's a day, it's a day, it's a daylight come and me one go home. Time to shake it out. Daylight come and me one go home. I had a jet lag back the lines down. Daylight come and me one go. One night was a day-o, day-o. Daylight come, me one go home. Is a day, is a day, is a day, is a day, is a day. Daylight come and me one go home. Daylight come and me one go home. Daylight come, me one go home. Daylight come, me one go home. The Banana Boat Song. Harry Belafonte. Yeah. So this brings us late 50s, early 60s. This next pop star, one of the biggest stars, music stars in American history. Matinee idol looks, smooth tenor vocals that made him a singer that influenced generations of rockers to come. People like Steve Perry and Rod Stewart tipped their hat to Mr. Sam Cooke, who was a young gospel singer, became a successful songwriter, producer, the first African American to own his own publishing as a songwriter, and started his own record company. Songs like You Send Me, Cupid, and Another Saturday Night. This is one of his songs that had a social conscience. And this song is called Chain Gang. That's the sound of a man working on a chain gang. That's the sound of a man working on a chain gang. Only work so hard till the sun is going down. Working on the highways and byways and wearing around. Somebody say that's the sound of a man working on a chain. Yeah, that's the sound of a man working on a chain. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Huh. Ha. Huh. Ha. Huh. Ha. That's the sound of a man working on a chain. Yeah, that's the sound of a man working on a chain. Wonderful song from Mr. Sam Cooke. Thank you, Sam. God bless you. All right. So, here we are in the 60s, early 60s, where there was a musical renaissance happening around the world. We know that there was a musical invasion from Britain. British bands like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles came en masse to our shores, and a lot of the music that they were playing was rhythm and blues, written by or sung by American Negroes. And they were bringing this back to us, their version of what they loved about our music. But here in America, there was music being created. There was a West Coast sound. There was an East Coast sound. There was a Memphis sound. Out in Detroit, Michigan, there was the Motown sound. Motown is short for Motor City Town. I think you might know that. There was a place called Hitsville, founded by Mr. Barry Gordy, who was an ex-boxer, had a vision, and knew that there was talent all around the city of Detroit. And he started this place, Hitsville, brought in all these singers, helped to develop them, and brought in these musicians who bought into the idea. He got his family to come together to help him with this business. And Motown is one of America's greatest business music stories. In the 60s, there was a period of time where the Beatles were fighting the Supremes for who would have the most hit songs. And at one point, near the pinnacle of Motown's reign, 3 out of every 10 top 10 singles were Motown hits, a feat that has never been repeated to this day. So songs like Stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Think it over. Think it over. Was something from the Supremes. Baby, baby, I'm aware of where you go. It's time you leave my door. I see group was a band called Marlin the Vandellas. From the Motown library of classic soul from the early and mid 60s. So most of our stars in our roots of black music in America got their starts in the churches, whether it was Sam Cooke, Ray Charles, Whitney Houston, or the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin, like the stars of Motown, also was from Detroit. What did they have in that water? Her father was a Baptist minister in Detroit. And Aretha, she came out like a meteor. She got a hold of a song by soul legend Otis Redding, his song Respect. And in 1968, she had a huge hit with that, and she got respect. Made a name for herself. I'm going to do her song called Think. Aretha Franklin. You better think about what you're trying to do to me. Think. Come on now, let yourself be free. Let's go back to back when I didn't even know you now, putting in more than 10. I ain't no psychiatrist, no nothing to agree. I don't take too much now, see what you're doing to me. I wanna think, you know what you're trying to do to me. Think, come on now, let yourself be free. Freedom, 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 freedom. From Miss Aretha Franklin, Queen of Soul. Thank you, Aretha. Aretha left the building about 2 years ago. God bless her. Last artist in our show, nicknamed Soul Brother Number 1. And before I dive into Mr. Brown and his influence, I want to say thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did, and I hope when I get to your town, I will run into you. You can see me on Facebook if you want. I'm Karlus Trapp. So glad you dropped on by. James Brown, with his unmistakable funky sound, voice, and dancing, made James a model for singers and dancers, songwriters like Prince and Michael Jackson. Rappers stole or sampled, as they said, his beats, became like thieves in the night, taking his music and using it as the basis for their own. But James made his name on American history and culture by coming up with an anthem called I'm Black and I'm Proud, which was a hit in 1968. That song helped American Negroes to change how they viewed themselves. If there were those American Negroes who were ashamed and wanted to hide their black heritage from being descendants of slaves, this song helped them to embrace that and see it in a different light. I'm Black and I'm Proud, James Brown, 1968. This next song from James embodies how I feel right now. One of my favorite songs from Mr. Brown is called I Feel Good.